What's going on, everybody? Josh here with Shua Photography, and in today's video I'm going to walk you through step by step how I created this lighting composite at a wedding that I had a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step processes I take in CaptureOne Pro to edit the raw files, and then we're going to jump into Affinity Photo, which I use to do all of my edits. So let's jump in and show you what I do. So you can see here what we are working with. So this here is my base image. So what I do is I set the camera on a tripod, I get my lighting correct. You'll see here I was getting the guy's position, figuring out the power of my flash, and then I had my niece who was holding the flash over here, hold it where I wanted it, and then took the first photo. And then you'll see where we go on and on and on and on and on and on. So until we get all the things lit that I wanted to. You'll notice that in my final image I decided not to use the brightness there of the cue ball and ended up cropping in a little bit, but that is to just show you what we do. So in your raw editing, what you're going to do is get the lighting and the exposure the way that you want it. I'm gonna go in here and see what I might have done. I didn't really do anything because it was pretty much perfect the way that it was. What I may do in this one for you is just to bump up the shadows a little bit, just to give a little more detail here on the groomsmen or the friends that were in this photo. So bump up the shadows just a little bit. His face, as you can see here, his face is pretty well lit, so I won't bother with adjusting the exposure on his face. What I'm going to do is just do a Ctrl Shift and copy on Windows. Ctrl Shift and copy in CaptureOne copies all of the adjustments that were done on this image, and then I'm going to paste it, Ctrl Shift and paste, and you'll see the shadows are going to go up the exact same amount. I'm going to do that for all of the gentlemen here in the image, and the last one here. And I am not going to bother with doing the same for this one because I ended up not using the cue balls that were lit also because they just ended up looking too bright. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select all of my images. Before we go and do that, I just wanted to go back through. Some of these guys ended up just being too bright. So what I may do, let's zoom out a little bit and bring down the brightness. No, I don't want to do that. Maybe the highlights, just to bring, let's see what it looks like if I bring down the highlights. Is that doing anything on his face? No. The reason I'm doing this is because it looks like the exposure on these two guys are basically, and some of the other guys, is just a lot more bright. So I want to try and even out the exposure on these guys. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to just add a new adjustment layer with just a standard brush, and I'm just going to bring the brightness down on this just a little bit and see, just because I don't want him to be super blown out, and see if we're a little closer. So that looks about right. So now that we've done that, we'll do the same thing for this gentleman. So because this is a wider shot in all of these, you don't really have to worry about them being perfect, but I do like the way these are looking. If we just zoom in here, zoom in here, zoom in here. The thing I like about CaptureOne is when we are doing all of this, we can zoom in to each of our selected wherever we want, just to make sure that we have it the way that we are going to want it at the end. So now you can see that the exposures are a lot more even all the way across the board. So now that we have each of our guys selected, what we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to export these. So we're going to go in here to our export settings, and I am going to want to put these in JPEG highest quality. So this is a recipe that was already built into CaptureOne Pro, but this is JPEG full size highest quality. We could do TIFF and whatever else, but this works out pretty well. So then I'm going to go in here, choose my folder, go into my 2022 hill wedding here. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it Composite YT for YouTube, so we know that's where these images are going. So now it's going into Composite YouTube, and we're going to change this to Composite YT, and then we're going to export. So now it's going to export these 7 photos, and then what we'll go ahead and do is, while those are exporting, we are going to open up, I use Affinity Photo, so we're going to open up each of these. All of my exports are complete. So now that we have Affinity Photo up, what we're going to do is we are going to open all of these photos. So we're going to navigate to our folder, the Hill Wedding Composite YouTube. We're going to select all of them, and we're going to open them. And then we're going to find our base image. Here's our base image, so I'm going to... Okay, so now this photo is at the end. So all we're going to do is go to Composite 1. So we're going to just do a Control Copy, go back here and do a Control Paste, and go to our layers. See which layer where it's at. Okay, so we're going to change this to base. Change this to Guide 2. Okay. So the end guy. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to work on these one at a time, okay? So we are going to we're going to turn off all of them except for our base and our guy 2. So here's our base, guy 2. Then what we're going to go in here is we're going to go into opacity, and we are going to put this at 50%. Oops, we're on the wrong selection. So hold on, click on our guy 2. We're going to go to our opacity and put it at 50%. Okay, so you'll see that it's not quite aligned. So let's zoom in here. You can see he's not quite aligned. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, so he might have just moved a tiny bit. So we're just going to move this to where he is pretty much lined up there. Now what we're going to do is we are going to grab our selection brush, and we are just going to grab him, grab everything on him. Grab the lighting, his shoulder, all of that good stuff. We're going to grab everything that is lit on him. And we don't need to go down to his hands, but might as well, right? Just make sure we're grabbing the majority of him, right? This isn't going to have to be perfect, but we do want to get as close as we can to getting all of his stuff. Okay. And I'm not going to go too crazy right now because you guys can go as detailed or not as you want. But once we've got him pretty well selected, okay, I'll go a little more there. So now that he's selected, we're going to do Ctrl I to invert. Oops. Ctrl Shift I is going to invert my selection, and then we're going to hit delete. So now we can bring the opacity all the way up. And we're going to deselect. Okay, so now we've got two guys in here, right? So it looks pretty good, right? We've got nice lighting on two of our gentlemen. Okay, so then we're going to go and we're going to do this and do this process for all of the other ones. Guy 3, we are going to bring the opacity down to 50%. We're going to zoom in, going to make sure he's pretty well aligned, and then let's see where we're at here. There we go. Now we are aligned. We're going to zoom in, grab our selection tool, and now from here on out I'm going to go pretty quick just to do rough selection here of everything for this gentleman here. Because we're lighting him with a flash up here, it's not spilling onto the background or anything like that, but we're just going to select whatever we can here. We'll zoom out. Everything else looks pretty good. Ctrl Shift I to invert our selection, hit delete, and then we're going to bring our opacity back all the way up to 100%. Now we have 3 guys. He's still pretty bright, so if I wanted to, I could go back into the my raw editor, bring down his exposure a little bit, but I'm not going to bother with that for this tutorial. But we're just going to press on. So the groom, again, we're going to bring him down by a little bit. And the reason we're bringing down the exposure and we're aligning him is because we don't want any artifacts where it may be hidden, like it may be just showing back behind him. So now that we've got that, we will grab our selection tool. We're going to grab the groom. Again, we can go, I'm going to go pretty rough on this one just to make sure that this tutorial isn't insanely long. I am going to grab all of this here because just in case there's any spill from the flash on any of his clothing or the pool cue or anything like that, we want it to be as even as possible when we go to bring the opacity all the way back up. I might show you on the next gentleman not doing all of that, but okay, so pretty well selected. We're going to invert, delete. So we're showing everything here. Bring our opacity all the way back up. Control D to deselect. and now it looks really good. So like I said, so there isn't any alignment issues on these guys, but so for our next one, I will leave it the way it is. So we're gonna go here. Let's just select him. Like I said, I'm not changing the opacity and trying to line him up. I'm just gonna grab everything that is lit by the flash to be as even as possible. Okay, let's go up into his hair just to make sure we didn't miss any of his face. And then we're gonna go to Ctrl Shift Invert and then delete. There we go. Okay, so now this is where we want to check all of our stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna deselect. Okay, so you can see here, you see how his ear is kind of peeking out here? This is why we want to try and align them better, is because you may see some ghosting like this, where this is his ear, his hair is pushed back and stuff like that. So what I'm gonna do with this one is I'm just gonna grab this cutout here and I'm just gonna pull it back just a hair, just to make sure we're not, and we don't wanna go too far. But we just want to find where that ear was and kind of line it up there. So now you don't see that ghosting back there. Okay, so again, that's why we try and align it when we go to do this. So we're going to go to the second from the left. Delete, remove our selection, bring our opacity all the way back up, bada bing, bada boom. Gonna move this over. So now we've got our composite complete. So what I am gonna do though is we're gonna crop in. So I'm going to grab my crop tool here and I am going to remove all of that there. I'm going to bring this in and then center it some more. So we don't want him too far to the edge, but we want the groom pretty well centered. I know the lamp is not, but that's pretty good there. I'm going to apply this and bam. That is our composite. Now that we've got our composite finished here, what we can then do, then we can go in here and we can export. We're gonna export this and we can export this as a TIFF so that we can get some more detail out of it. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it back into CaptureOne Pro and do final tweaks. So let's export this. We're gonna go here. We're going to do composite, TIFF. We're going to save that there, and it's exporting. Okay, and then we'll minimize that. Let's go ahead and import. These are photos from my daughter's kindergarten promotion yesterday. We're going to change the folder to go to our folder containing our composite. We're going to review these for import. Okay, and then we want to select our TIFF and then change this import to TIFF Composite YT. This just helps me with sorting and all that stuff. So boom, here is our composited image here in CaptureOne Pro. So what we can do is we can do all kinds of adjustments, right? So we know it's going to look really good. Everything looks pretty good here. You can see here that there's what looks to be a thermostat. So what we can do is we can just grab our healing tool, just grab this, swish it around here, bada bing, bada boom, make it disappear. Awesome. So now that's gone. What we can then do is come over to our adjustments. Let's add a new adjustment layer. And I do want to brighten up the pool balls just a little bit. Where are we at? 14. Let's go to 12, my lucky number, and just see what that looks like. So we're going to come in real nice and close. I'm going to bring this down. We're going to bring up the brightness on the pool balls just a slight bit, because I do want them to pop a little bit, but I do not want them to be too distracting or overbearing. Awesome. There we go. So now, there it is. Well, that's it. That's our edit. What do you guys think? Were you guys able to follow along real easily? Is this something you're gonna try and do? Leave a comment down below. And if you wanna see anything else like this, let me know what you wanna see. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Thanks again for watching. This is Josh with Shua Photography.